The Pentagon is denying Iran's claim that a U.S. drone was flying over Iranian airspace when Iran shot it down yesterday. The Pentagon released video of the incident. They are calling it an unprovoked attack. It shows the smoke trail left behind after the drone was shot down. And this is the map the U.S. military showed during a briefing today. The red dot is where the Pentagon says Iran launched its missile, and the blue dot is where the U.S. says its drone was shot down. President Trump seized on the announcement in a news conference with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Now, Iran made a big mistake. This drone was in international waters. Clearly, we have it all documented. It's documented scientifically, not just words. And they made a very bad mistake.
How will you respond, Mr. President? How will you respond?
You'll find out.
Are you willing to make a war with Iran?
You'll find out. You'll find out.
Paula Reid and Jacqueline Alemany join me now from Washington. Paula is our CBS News White House correspondent, and Jackie is a Washington reporter and CBS alum. Great to see you both. And of course, CBS News national security correspondent David Martin joins us on the phone. David, let's start with this video from the Pentagon. Explain to us what exactly it shows us.
Well, it was taken from another aircraft, which just happened to be in the vicinity at the time of the shoot-down, and it briefly shows sort of the death of a $200 million unmanned Global Hawk reconnaissance drone. There's nothing in the video, of course, that tells you where that took place, but the U.S. Military says that at the time of the shoot-down, it was the drone was operating at a very high altitude. These kinds of drones usually operate up at 50,000 feet or even more, and that at its closest point of approach to the Iranian coast, it was still more than 20 miles away, which of course would put it in international airspace. The drone fell into the Gulf of Oman, and I'm told that American naval vessels are now on the scene and trying to recover the debris from the wreckage of the drone.
All right, now, David, the U.S. and the Iranian governments are telling different stories about what exactly happened here. Do we have any idea where the absolute truth lies?
Well, these drones follow very precise tracks because, of course, to know what you're looking at down on the ground, you have to know exactly where you are up in the air. So there is unquestionably a very precise radar track of this drone, which would tell you the exact latitude and longitude it was at when it disappears from the radar scope. Earlier in the day, U.S. officials were talking about releasing that radar scope imagery to make their case, but so far all we've seen is this fairly rudimentary Google map that you've shown.
All right. Well, David Martin, we thank you so much for sharing your military expertise on all of this with us. We know you have to go, so thank you so much for that.
Okay. Yes.
And Paula, what more can you tell us about the White House response?
Tanya, clearly the two countries disagree about whether this drone had violated international airspace, a key issue in determining who was at fault. But a short time ago, the president said that he believed the drone was over international waters and it was, quote, scientifically documented. But the White House, the president, they have not provided that scientific documentation. Then the president made an interesting pivot. He sort of backed off a bit and he said, but this could have been unintentional. It could have been, quote, somebody who was loose and stupid. So it appears that the president has a bit of a disagreement here with some of his top officials, because just a short time before the president spoke, the Pentagon came out and said they believe that this attack was an effort to disrupt our ability to monitor the area following the recent threats to international shipping and the free flow of commerce. So for the president to come out and really give himself and Iran this out by suggesting this may have been a mistake, that's significant. And he went on to talk about how he had campaigned on a promise not to engage in, quote, endless wars. So it appears that he is not too keen, based on these comments, to engage in military conflict at this point.
Absolutely. That appears to be the case. So, Jackie, as we know, tensions between the U.S. and Iran continue to escalate over this. Should we be concerned about the risks of war, or does it seem pretty clear that the president is trying to avoid that right now?
Well, I think Paula really hit the nail on the head here. I think as these tensions have escalated with Iran, it has been characterized by tensions within the administration itself between John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, and the president. You have Bolton and Pompeo who, have wanted to put an economic chokehold on Iran. They have insisted that Iran abide by a deal that we pulled out of, while the president has wanted to, spark diplomatic talks again and avoid war at all costs. But I think what you saw the president here was sort of maneuvering himself out of the box that his officials put himself in. You had Mike Pompeo just days ago saying that if Iran had, made an attack on an American, on the American military, as we potentially may have seen with the crash of this drone, then that we would take action against Iran. And I think that is what the president wants to avoid at all costs, especially as he's going into the 2020 election and wants to, keep his campaign promises.
Right. Well, we will continue to follow the White House response on all of this throughout the day. But Paula, earlier this week, President Trump tweeted that ICE will begin the process of deporting millions of undocumented immigrants starting next week. Now, we know there isn't enough staff to arrest and deport millions of people. So what more do we know about their plans?
Exactly, Tanya. It's not logistically feasible to round up and deport millions of people in one fell swoop. But ICE has suggested that there may be a heightened emphasis on deporting families, and specifically that there could be mass arrests. They have asked for a reallocation of some resources within the Department of Homeland Security. Specifically, they have requested that agents in the Homeland Security Investigations Agency be allocated to them. They could help in long-term investigations into human trafficking, drug trafficking as well. That could be a sign, since this is a rare reallocation of resources within that agency, that they may be leading to mass arrests. But there is just not the infrastructure or the manpower to be able to successfully deport millions of people at one time. It appears that part of this may be some tough talk to try to deter mass migration over the southwest border. Because so far, the Trump administration has not been successful in passing policies to deter or stop that migration. But early on in the administration, it did have some success with tough talk and getting those numbers to go down. But once people realize there's really nothing behind the tough talk, once again, you see that surge. So it remains to be seen how many mass arrests they try to do and whether or not it succeeds in deterring people from coming across the southwest border.
Of course, the question is also whether it will have a chilling effect on those that are already here. Jackie, what effect will this announcement have on the roughly 10 million undocumented immigrants who are believed to be living across the country?
Yeah, well, I spoke with a number of experts and, former administration officials who are really concerned with this kind of rhetoric, as they have been over the past few years. A lot of people just saw this as pure fear-mongering on the part of the president, an announcement that he made on Twitter that was, number one, inaccurate, because it's impossible for ICE to actually round up millions of people. They only, per year, I believe, round up around 15,000. And would actually result in a sort of family separation 2.0 policy potentially, because of people being, inadvertently separated from their children being at sleepaway camps. But, this, again, this president's deterrence policy is not working. We have an all-time level of migrants trying to cross the border, the highest that it's been in a decade. And I think that, this kind of rhetoric, especially combined with, I think, pushes that the administration is making with regards to the census, it just, pushes these people, these undocumented immigrants, into the shadows. But, on the flip side of this, I also talked to a number of people about sort of the political consequences, and they think that this is the kind of thing that is really going to drive Latino turnout to an all-time high in the 2020 election. People are sick and tired of this kind of, hate and fearful rhetoric.
All right. Well, meanwhile, Jackie, moving on now, the United Nations released a detailed report this week looking into the death of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. The UN investigator said Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman should be investigated for his murder. So have we heard anything from the White House about this today?
No, not that I believe so, and I'm pretty sure that this silence is, purposeful. The White House has repeatedly attempted to sweep this issue under the rug, and now the White House is pushing through an arms deal with Saudi Arabians as Congress has pushed back against the Trump administration's relationship with Saudi Arabia and really their Middle East policy in general. But there has been time and time again the president ignoring, with regards to the Magnitsky Act or any sort of request for investigating Mohammed bin Salman's role in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi's death and the White House's obvious refusal to hold him accountable.
All right. Now, Paula, before we go, I want to ask you, because you've been doing some fresh reporting on the fact that an ethics watchdog group is asking the government to investigate Ivanka Trump for a potential violation of the Hatch Act, which bars federal employees from engaging in elections in their official capacity. So what are they saying that Ivanka Trump did exactly?
They're looking at a specific tweet that she sent out on Father's Day, citing her father's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," suggesting the best was yet to come. And this came just a few days before the president launched his re-election campaign in Florida. Now, they are pointing to this, saying that this violates the Hatch Act. She, of course, is a White House employee, and she should not be influencing or engaging or opining on elections. And this comes just days after the Office of Special Counsel, not Robert Mueller, a different Office of Special Counsel that's in charge of enforcing the Hatch Act, accused advisor Kellyanne Conway of repeatedly violating the Hatch Act. So it's a hot topic here at the White House. Now, this specific complaint does not appear as robust as the one against Kellyanne Conway. It's not a pattern. It's one Father's Day tweet. It remains to be seen if the Office of Special Counsel will want to pursue this tweet.
All right. Well, Paula Reid and Jackie Alemany, thanks to both of you for being with us.
Thanks.